Here's our guest speaker tonight, Ms. Martha Mensendiek. And here is the basic bio that I'm sure you have read. And what I just want to add a few more words beyond her bio and to say, welcome, Martha. I'm so glad to see you here. We've been wanting to have you here for a long time. I've known Martha for many years, and what I want you to know about Martha is that she is passionate, and I use that in the best sense of the word. She is passionate in her lifelong commitment, professionally and personally, to helping women, and to helping women regardless of their status, their origin of birth, or their personal situation, whether it be domestic violence, sexual abuse, labor problems, mental illness, whatever they find that they need help with, Martha will be there with them. And I think you will find her enthusiasm as she talks about this difficult plight of women, something that she can bring you into understanding that. Martha, I think, seeks justice with compassion and respect for women in Japan. It's where she is working, of course, but in general, she is, as I say, passionate. That's the word I think I'd like to leave, passionate about helping women. Welcome, Martha.
Thank you, Kathy. And it touches my heart that you mentioned that word. It's what I hope to be and strive to be, and not lose that the fire or the passion that I felt when I was in my early 20s, when I first was exposed to the issue of human trafficking, and it grabbed my heart, and I wanted to commit that's what I wanted to do in my life, was to work for the both to end trafficking and the human abuse, and also to bring about a more tolerant and accepting society here in Japan and around the world toward all kinds of differences, people from different walks of life. Today, and thank you to Mariko and Nozomi and all the people from Not for Sale Japan. I know your tireless work around this issue of to end human trafficking is something that you have brought attention to this issue and it needs to continue. But you're plugging along and tirelessly, and if anything, I feel the passion from you about in this issue to really the commitment that all of you have toward this issue is something that I really respect, because as I will be speaking today, I have sort of in my career been focusing more on sort of not just one issue, but sort of a conglomerate of issues, and we're all about the same thing: to end abuse and to uphold people's dignity. But I'll be explaining about the Bazaar Cafe, which is doing it more not toward one sort of issue, but a whole bunch of issues, to be a place for people who need help. So I'll be explaining about that. So let me share my PowerPoint. One of the things that I will say is that if there's anything I can say, I right now I'm not out there as much helping with direct social work or direct support, as much as maybe more advocacy and also awareness building with my students, because I teach at a university. But the one thing that I can say is that I've been around for a long time. And so I'm reflecting on the 25 years of the Bazaar Cafe supporting minorities in Japan, but at this also working with migrant women in Japan, it's been 30 years. And a lot has changed, and a lot has still sort of stayed this, we still have a lot of work to do. Basically, just a very brief, more about my own journey, what I've been doing in my life here in Japan, working with migrant women, is first I started out at Help Shelter for 1 year. You all probably know about Help Shelter in Tokyo, but it's a shelter for women, both Japanese and non-Japanese women. And at the time in 1988, when I started there, most of the women, the non-Japanese women who were coming to the shelter for help were Filipino and Thai women who were really, as we know now, victims of human trafficking. So that's how I got my foot in the door, so to speak. I started out my career in the work that I felt this passion for at Help Shelter. And then I moved to the Kyoto YWCA, where I helped start up a hotline for foreign residents called Asian People Together. And this APT, APUTO, in Japanese we call it APUTO, is still going strong. And some of you may know Yoshida Yoko Bengoshi, lawyer, the attorney. Yoshida Yoko has been our lawyer from the very beginning, our Komon Bengoshi. And so we have focused mostly on women, especially divorce and family issues, but all kinds of issues, including labor and visa and any sort of life issues that foreign residents face. At the same time as APT, then I was also started getting involved with the Solidarity Network for Migrants, the 移住者と連帯する全国ネットワーク, the Migrants Network. And that APTO is very involved in this migrant network. And of course, as you probably all know, Ijuren, Migrant Network, does a lot of advocacy and is a network of all kinds of organizations and researchers and individuals who are supporting foreign residents in Japan and looking for changes in laws and etc. Then, as you in your introduction for Not for Sale Japan, you all know about JNATIP, but I was working at the YWCA at the time that we started JNATIP. So I was one thing I can say is that I was involved at the time that it began, and unfortunately I'm not quite as involved directly as much as I would like to. But Yoshida Yoko, attorney Yoshida, is one of the what do you call it? Lawyers and daihyo, I guess, representative. Then another organization that I've been involved with is A1, which is stands for Empowerment of Immigrant Women Affiliated Network, but it's a group in Fukushima. After the disaster, the Eastern Japan earthquake and tsunami disaster in 2011, there were, of course, many foreign residents who were also affected, and their lives really changed as Japanese people also. But one of the things that was identified is that a lot of foreign residents weren't getting the information that they needed at their Japanese level. Everything was, what was happening in Fukushima with the radiation, even for those of us who understand Japanese, it was so confusing. It was like, is this safe to even be here? What should, what is safe for my children? All that kind of thing. So we started this A1 as a support network for especially women, especially in Fukushima, but also in Miyagi and other places that were affected by the radiation. And it's still continuing as a support group. And offers like Japanese language classes and support for children of the Filipina women and Chinese women who live in Fukushima in that area. And then finally, the Bazaar Cafe, which is what I'm going to be talking about mostly today. So those are the organizations that I have been involved with throughout these 30 years with having to do with migrant women and men also, but mostly a focus on women. And the second point, just as an introduction, is so looking back over these 30 years, the experience of that migrant women have faced in Japan. As you all know, in the 1980s, a lot of Filipinos and especially Filipina women were being recruited as entertainers or in, the Huzoku Eigyo, all kinds of hostess clubs and in the entertainment industry that's rather notorious in Japan from that time and before. So a lot of the women were trafficked, or not all of them were trafficked, but working in the entertainment industry. And then that's where many of them, of course, sought, when with the abuse, they were, a lot of those women sought help at help shelter. And at that time, it was like all we could do was help give them shelter in order to be deported back to their country. And it seemed really like, isn't there a better way to, first of all, to stop the recruitment for one thing, but also we were dealing with women who would come back the second time or third time because of, lack of opportunities in their own country for a better life. Anyway, so in the 1980s, most of the migrant women, the opportunity for them to work in Japan was in the entertainment industry and also in prostitution, so to speak. But also during the 80s, there was marriage that was another opportunity, if you can say that, to come to Japan. And some of it was fraudulent marriage, like recruitment that was fraudulent, and some women who didn't realize that they were coming to marry someone. They thought they were coming to work, but it was actually a marriage to usually someone much older in rural Japan who, weren't able to get a Japanese spouse. And so because they wanted children to continue with the farming family or whatever, they would marry, sought a marriage partner from abroad. So those were back in the 80s and somewhat 90s. A lot of the women that we were supporting were in the entertainment industry or with marriage issues. Now in the present, there are more varied visa statuses for foreign women, and men. And one of the issues, of course, is the trainees, the Gino Jishusei, and then the care workers, the kaigoshi. And there was the EPA, the Economic Partnership Agreement that brought in many women from Philippines and Indonesia to work as caregivers with the elderly in Japan. And then now we're identifying issues with foreign students, ryugakusei, who are being put to work with long hours, and sometimes they're not, there's fraudulent fraud with foreign students status and that kind of thing too. That's another issue. And then the let me see if I can minimize, sorry. Oh, I'm trying to minimize. Anyway, now the tokute gino is another, the SSW, the specified skilled worker, is another visa category that I think that the supporters of foreign workers are trying to shift people over to that instead of like the trainee system. And then the other is family, that so to bring over your family or to be a child of someone who is a foreign permanent resident and that kind of thing. So right now with the residents in Japan, there's a more varied number of various visa statuses, but also problems with each one of them also. So, and I don't have time to get into that right now, I'll move on. But this is just sort of a summary of some of the issues looking specifically at foreign victims of human trafficking in Japan, because as I have learned, and you all know, those of you who are working with NFSJ, is that most of the identified victims of human trafficking in Japan right now are Japanese nationals, right? And so that doesn't mean that there aren't foreign victims. And of course, a lot of the victims who may or may not be counted. But as far as international organizations identify the technical trainee system, the Ginojishu Seido, as one form of human trafficking. And so many of the foreign victims of human trafficking in Japan right now, I guess, would be the Ginojishu, which involves forced labor and debt, and all the points that that define human trafficking seem to exist in the Ginojishu Seido. And one of the words I want to point out is often with one of the issues that's brought up with the Ginojishu Seido is shiso, and I guess in English we would say disappearance, and that's sort of seen as a problem that the jishusei, that it's an irresponsible thing that they do, that they disappear. And so it's sort of like blaming the victim, but you have to realize, okay, why are they running away from the situation? It's because they are being abused and exploited. And so it's not that they are disappearing, but they are trying to seek help, or it's not a situation that is good for them. So anyway, I just bring that up as one point. The other point with the trainees is that women who become pregnant or give birth, they lose their job if it's known that they're pregnant. So a lot of cases that you've seen on the news where a woman trainee gave birth, but the baby died, or she killed, or so she got rid of the baby in a closet or something, and it was so what do you call it? Deemed a murder. But a lot of the support organizations are saying that, of course, are supporting the woman and saying that, well, the exploitative situation that she was in, that she would be penalized for giving birth, that you have to understand the context of where she was coming from. And so one of the issues right now with foreign women in Japan is with trainees around pregnancy and childbirth. And then with foreign students being forced to work long hours without being able to go to the school that they are belonging to, and a lot of Chinese and other nationalities who actually come to Japan to recruited to work, but they are identify, or the visa is a foreign student. The other issue is with Japanese Filipino children and their mothers. And sometimes there's recruitment as human trafficking, people recruiting Filipino women who are raising Japanese children or half Japanese children in the Philippines, and they want to find the father. And so the recruiters know that the woman and the child, have this desire to come to Japan, and so they're recruited and actually forced to work in exploitative conditions. So that has happened also with, there have been cases with JFCs. Just finally, additional issues around foreign women, migrant women, is with domestic violence. And also there are two laws that you may be aware of that one, the next year, I'm sorry, this is only in Japanese, but in April 2024, there's a new law, the 困難な問題を抱える女性の支援に関する法律. It means that, well, it's sort of a umbrella, or it's a new law to support women in difficult situations. And so it's like poverty, child, care, violence, and it's sort of supposed to be a more comprehensive law for women's issues. But one of the issues, the support network, including Ijuren and others, are trying to make sure that foreign women, that there are specific help for foreign women specified in the law. And then I'm sorry, I left out the the domestic violence law was revised this year in May. But the support agencies, including Ijuren and others, and lawyers are saying that there needs to be more specific wording about foreign victims of trafficking. Foreign survivors of domestic violence. And for example, the big issue that was publicized a lot about Wishma Sang, who died in the immigration when she was being kept in immigration, and she was a victim of domestic violence, but she also had overstayed her visa as a student visa, but the immigration, put her in detention for the immigration problem, and ignored the fact that she was actually also a victim of domestic violence. So the fact that she was suffered this violence and should have been addressed before putting her into immigration as someone who had overstayed her visa. So anyway, a lot of issues around women's rights and making sure that the laws address issues specific to migrant women. So that's just okay. So that's just sort of a background of what I have been doing in my life, and also sort of a very rough summary of looking back at the 30 years of various human rights issues surrounding migrant workers and women in Japan. But lately, for the last 25 years, I have been involved both at the YWCA Apto, but also starting up this Bazaar Cafe, and now more because I have a responsible position as sort of the director or the representative of the Bazaar Cafe. So I spend a lot of time in this project. And so the Bazaar Cafe, well, while it is not specifically devoted to migrant women, it that's one sort of group that we are concerned with, but other persons as well. And I'll be explaining about that as I, so it's a broader approach to support one another in society. So I think right now I'll have Nozomi show YouTube just to give you sort of an overview of what the Bazaar Cafe looks like, and then I'll go into specifics. So can you start that without me 画面停止した方がいいですかね、共有。
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll start showing my video then.
Okay, so this Bazaar Cafe is in Kyoto, which is where I reside. Okay, so that gives you an overview of sort of a sense of where I guess I have to come in again.
Review.
Hold on, you can't, here we go. Okay. So the Bazaar Cafe is located in Kyoto, and it's housed in an old missionary house of the United Church of Christ, and we renovated the first floor to become the Bazaar Cafe. And so let's see. The objectives of the Bazaar Cafe, our vision was that to be a place where everyone can be themselves for who they are, regardless of their sexuality, age, nationality, and other differences. And we advocate through our programs and services to the society, aiming to create a culture of diversity. And the Bazaar Cafe is a partnership between the Kyoto district of the Nihon Kiristo Kyodan, which is a Protestant church, and the United Church of Christ in the United States, which is actually my denomination which I am affiliated with, and also who owns, at this point, owns that the land. One of the issues that we have been involved with is with the LGBTQ population, and I'll explain that more about that later. So it's diversity both with ethnicity and nationality and race or whatever, but also sexuality and also various other differences. But so the components of the Bazaar Cafe is that, first of all, it's a restaurant, a cafe, and we're known for our ethnic food. So we have Filipino, Thai, Korean, Brazilian food, and the chefs who cook those foods are foreign women, migrant women. And so it's sort of this work support program component, which I'll explain later. But so it's a restaurant, but also we do various social work, what could be defined as social work support programs for people. We have a gardening project, and also it's a place for education for social work students and others. So the work of the Bazaar Cafe is, ごめんなさい. I'm trying to minimize this. どうすればこれを minimize できるんだろう。あ、こっちか。OK。あれhere we go. Sorry about that. Okay. The work of the Bazaar Cafe, so it's a place of employment. We employ foreign residents and others who, for various reasons, have difficulty working at a normal job, so to speak. And through working at the Bazaar Cafe, we hope we can be of some help to make connections with many people and with society. One of whom we have supported for 10 years now has become the store manager and is now supporting other people in the same situation as herself. So this on the left hand, the woman here is our store manager now, and she has had her problem that she has overcome. I mean, she is in a good place right now, is with addiction, alcohol and drug addiction. So the support, and we have the concept of empowerment. The support that we have is for women, and especially migrant women and LGBTQ, also people who are seeking recovery from alcohol and drug addictions, and people who have physical and mental health challenges, and others. So the support to the LGBTQ community, we have like gatherings for people to gather. We have something called the Care Cafe. Care Cafe. It's a way to connect the helping professionals and volunteers, like around themes including sexuality, HIV, or drug abuse. The pictured on the top here is from Care Cafe, and this man is speaking about his identity, and he is one of our members, a very active staff, and he not only is gay, but also has a drug addiction that he is overcoming, and also is HIV positive. And so he was speaking about his identity to these people, and some of these people gathered here are nurses, some are teachers, some are social workers, some are students. And so after he shares about his experience, people can discuss, around those issues. And so, and it's a wonderful way for people who don't usually meet one another to meet one another and share information and exchange meshi and stuff. To be able to connect different professionals and also students. We also have individual counseling. And as I have said before, it's a place where people can feel safe being themselves. They don't have to come out and tell everybody who they are, but if they feel like talking about their identity, they know that there's someone that can listen without judgment. And then providing a safe workplace. So one of the groups of people that we provide work for are migrant women. And at this point, we have 4 migrant women employed, Filipino and Thai. And so they work in the kitchen and prepare, Filipino or Thai food. And it's a way for them, a lot of the migrant women who, for example, maybe they went through a divorce and so they are single parents, and so the cafe becomes a place, sort of a family for them, and so their children can be, some of the students that are volunteering at the Bazaar Cafe help them with their homework, or it's sort of like more than just an employment, it's a connection to a new sort of family. And so but we also have individual counseling available if necessary. And then another big group of people that we support are persons with drug addictions. And there's a group called, an organization called DARC, Drug Addiction Rehabilitation Center. And the Kyoto Daruku people come once a week to work in the yard and to do upkeep with the large garden that we have. And that is one way of rehabilitation that keeps their mind off of wanting to use the substance or whatever. And so it's this collaboration between Kyoto Daruku and the Bazaar Cafe. We also have self-help groups. The Narcotics Anonymous group meets weekly at the cafe. And then this Bazaar Cafe Salon is a self-help group of, at this point, they're all men. We also have a women's group, but that's a different group. This group of men have the 3 identities that are all sort of shunned in Japanese society. They are gay, they have a drug addiction, and they have HIV. They're HIV positive. So it's a support group for persons like that. We also have somewhat of a focus on mental health issues too, and we collaborate with a mental health clinic. So persons with different mental illnesses can come and help out in the kitchen or with various events that we have going on. And then we have a program for women with addictions, which is very much less of a focus in Japan. There seems to be, with addiction, there's more programs for men. So just a very small support group for women with addictions. And then we have some people who have been coming, who actually we've had quite a success with several hikikomori persons who have continued to come to the Bazaar Cafe and helped out in the kitchen as a step toward connecting back to the society. And then we have various events to connect to social justice issues, sort of advocacy and getting the word out about issues, like, for example, Okinawa and the peace movement and the base issue, and also with Fukushima and the nuclear issue. As a couple examples. And then working with other ethnic groups and the ethnic community. We have an nonprofit organization in Osaka called CHARM, Center for Health and Rights of Migrants. And so we helped out with Health Fiesta in Osaka to get information out about various health-related support and also information about where to get treated or whatever. Healthy living is happy living. This is CHARM. CHARM, and then Fushimi Youth Action Center did this sort of a counseling session and festa for especially with different languages, persons who in the different languages like Nepali, Vietnamese, Filipino language, Thai language. And then we're also involved with the AIDS Forum in Kyoto. Every year there's an Kyoto AIDS Forum that we also support or are involved with. So finally, we are supported by donation and gifts, and also of course our cafe proceeds, but that's not enough because we do so much other than just employ people. We have a lot of different projects going on. So we are also always searching for community grants to sustain our programs. And we are in cooperation with universities and government research institutions. We've had some grants to do research on like HIV/AIDS and alcohol abuse prevention and such. This is our famous wisteria plant outside the in our yard. So to conclude, I guess the Bazaar Cafe is one place, a supportive place that supports a variety of people and various communities. But I think that what's needed more in Japan right now is like one-stop support centers where, you know, foreign residents can go and know that they can connect with people who can lead them to the right place instead of being sort of, you know, having to go to one place and get information, another place to get information. So I think one concept in social work is sort of a one-stop support center kind of. And multilingual support and outreach is very important in social welfare right now. And so we need a lot more work on that, and medical care to get foreign residents access to medical care, even though they may have insurance. The language access problem, you know, they may not get the care they need because of the language barrier. The public awareness of all the issues that I mentioned in the very beginning, and including human trafficking. I think we need more public awareness and collaboration between various organizations like you are doing with JNATIP, and I think the Migrant Network, the Ijuren, is doing a really good job of collaboration. And again, I've mentioned this many times, but I think we just need more supportive places and communities. And one of the concepts that I often, well, we use in Japanese a lot is ibasho shien. And many of the ibasho that are identified are usually for one specific group, like futoko no kodomotachi no ibasho, or you know, children, or persons with mental illness, or but what the Bazaar Cafe's concept is to be sort of a place for people across various identifications. So if I say this in Japanese, 特定のグループに特化したっていうよりは、いろんな人たちの場となれる。So it could be a place that people can sort of come because it is not identified as a place that supports such and such type of people. So it's a lot more approachable. We're not known as a place that is for this kind of person. So I think that that's one of the sort of a unique feature of the Bazaar Cafe. And finally, Mariko-san said that I could sort of end with sort of an advertisement, but I know that most of you probably reside in the Kanto area, so it may not be possible, but just to announce that we have our annual Fiesta on November 23rd. And it's really a fun, very lively event with lots of different food and music and all kinds of crafts that are made by different, especially people from different centers with disability, people for mental illness and physical disability. For those of you who know, 作業所で作られたものを売ったりしています。So, and it's a lot of students come and help out and such. So it's a very nice event. So maybe I'll just also end with around this bazaar, this fiesta. I'll just add one more thing. Is just that the fiesta is a place where some of the migrant women can sell the foods that they may not be on our menu every day in our cafe, but they can make all kinds of various treats that from their home country. And so it's sort of a way, an empowerment for women to sort of share their culture to a wider group of people. And we also have like Filipino dance, bamboo dance, and that kind of thing. So it is an event that is focused on sharing culture, and also having a place for foreign women to sort of do what they are good at doing and make people happy by eating their good food and that kind of thing. So it's part of the concept is empowerment. Okay, I will end there. ありがとうございました。